All right. What is going on, everybody? We are live. Guys, I've been doing YouTube for about 13 years at this point, and yeah, this is the first time I've ever done a live stream. So, I'm pretty excited to do this. Yeah, we're doing our very first live stream. If there are some technical difficulties, if there is some problem with the audio, I apologize for that, but it only goes uphill from here because it only gets better. We are doing our very first Ask Me Anything, guys. It's a live Q&A. I've been toying with this idea for a long time. So, before we get into the video itself, just going to do a little bit of ground rules. First, for the live Q&A, you guys can ask me anything you want within reason, of course. I ask that it's in good taste and it's appropriate. I'll decline to answer a question if it's not in my best interest to do so, but like I said, you guys can ask me anything. I have some questions that were already submitted to me via YouTube. Instagram, sorry. I have some questions that some people sent to me on Instagram. I'm going to answer those first. And then once I finish to those, you guys can type anything in the chat, and anything you want to ask, you type in the chat. I'll get to those. But I'm doing a little shortcut. If you have a question that you're just dying to ask and you want to cut the line, if you send a $5 super chat with your question, I'll give that priority. I'm thinking about doing this for about, I would say, 30 minutes, maybe 30, 45 minutes. If there is a healthy, productive flow of questions, then we're going to continue. But anyway, let's just get right into this. I got a couple questions lined up, and if you have questions as they go along, feel free to type them into the chat. If you guys can hear me, give a thumbs up in the chat. Let's see. Thumbs up if you can hear me. All right. Cool. Got a thumbs up. All right, let's get right into this. Also, remember to like the video and to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. But let's get into this. First question from Instagram. All right. So I got my first question. This is actually a really, really funny, interesting question. Whatever happened to Craig Cheddars? He was like in all of your vlogs, and all of a sudden he just disappeared. Okay. Craig Cheddars, he's still a friend of mine. You know, we still keep in touch. We text each other all the time. It's just that life gets in the way. He and I have both really different busy schedules, and well, I don't really vlog as much anymore. There was a time, especially prior to 2020, where I would vlog all the time, and he happened to be there for a lot of it. He's not around a lot of the times, and sometimes we can't always make it happen, but he's still around. And I think the last time he appeared in a vlog video was, I don't remember which one, but it was a video he had nothing to do with. And I just randomly took a video of him a few weeks after I filmed it and then said, "Hey, here's Craig Cheddars." He was sitting in my backyard, and I just plopped it on screen, and that was that. But whatever happened to Craig Cheddars, he's still a really good friend of mine. We talk all the time. It's just we're busy. He hasn't been in a video in like years. And also, between us, I don't think he actually likes being in my videos. So, you know. All right, next question. Why do you always criticize beloved movies? Seems like all you do is act like a contrarian for views. Okay, so that's actually an interesting question. People get this all the time. People always say this to me, and they always comment in my comments from my movie reviews, because I don't just do history and bullwhip stuff and vlogs. I also do movie reviews as well. Most of the movie reviews that actually get the biggest amount of views are the ones where I criticize movies that are more iconic, and as such, that tends to draw a lot of really negative attention. Believe it or not, I actually do believe in what I say when I talk about movies. Sometimes my opinion changes, and sometimes my my mind will, I changed my mind on that movie, and I'll go back and make a retraction. But I actually do believe what I say in reference to movies, and the unfortunate thing is the times where I defend movies that I think are underrated, or when I do like top 5 lists, those typically don't get the views that my more infamous ones get. Like, for example, I criticized The Godfather, got a lot of really negative reviews on that, but that's why I act like a contrarian. Well, it's always interesting to know that someone thought my opinion on The Dark Knight was interesting. I don't hate the movie, but the thing about The Dark Knight is I just don't think it's as awesome as people make it out to be, and I sincerely do believe what I say when I talk about movies. I'm not one of those people who does rage bait for film review views. So, yeah. All right, next question. What got you interested in history in the first place? Okay, this is actually a really interesting question. Not many people know this, but what got me interested into history in the first place is when I was a kid, I wanted to I wanted to be a marine biologist more than like anything in the world because the ocean is my favorite place. And so my mom would get me all these books from the library about the ocean, oceanography, marine life, and marine biology. And one day she got me a book on shipwrecks, and I was like, "Oh, this is underwater. This is ocean stuff. So that's kind of cool." And I came across the Titanic, like the sinking of the Titanic, and I became utterly obsessed with it. And anyone who knew me as a child will attest to the fact that I was completely obsessed with the sinking of the Titanic. And well, I would read book after giant book on the Titanic to the point where I was like, "Yeah, you know what? This isn't marine biology anymore. This is something else." And that was my gateway drug into history. So I was obsessed with the Titanic, and then I branched off into like World War II. That's like most people, most history buffs, gateway drug. And then that sprung into the First World War, and then it really monkey branched from there. That's what really got me into history is the sinking of the Titanic. Because when I was a kid, I was obsessed with it. I have posters, books, clippings, models, you name it, the Titanic, that's all me. All right. All right, you're a Roman Catholic. Who's your favorite pope? Um, I'm gonna say Pope Leo the Great. He was the Bishop of Rome in the 5th century, and his biggest claim to fame would be the fact that he negotiated with Attila the Hun and got him to spare the city of Rome because at this point, Western Rome, the Western Roman Empire was in shambles. It was really falling apart. And Attila the Hun was attacking Rome. And when he and his armies were about to attack the city, the Pope was one of the people who negotiated with him. And he obviously paid him off to get him to not attack the city. But I still think that's really cool that the Bishop of Rome took up such a huge responsibility, such a huge mantle, and faced off against Attila the Hun and got him to turn around and leave the Eternal City alone. And I always loved the Christian art where you could see the paintings and the interpretations of what it would look like if um if like if Pope Leo was to call the angels of heaven down on Attila the Hun. That to me is really funny. I always love those artist pictures and I love that. So Pope Leo, I think Pope Leo the Great is my favorite pope. All right, next question. Um What is your favorite video that you ever made? Okay, I have 2 answers to this. One is Blade Runner sucks because Blade Runner is no exaggeration my least favorite movie of all time. And then The Passion of the Christ movie versus book, what's the difference? So I'll start with why I like the Blade Runner video the most. Um, uh Blade Runner is a movie that really disappointed me and really bothered me when I first saw it, and I became obsessed with how much I hated it. And when I first started doing my unpopular opinion movie reviews, it surprised me that I never got around to talking about Blade Runner. So when I did, it was actually really fun, and I put a lot of effort into that video, and I think it came out great, and I think my arguments were actually pretty good for why I disliked the movie Blade Runner. And, the fact that I never have to talk about why I hate Blade Runner again, I could just say, "I don't like Blade Runner. Here's why. You can watch this video." But The Passion of the Christ movie versus book, what's the difference? It was a passion project for me, and I don't mean that as like a pun. It's because um it combined 3 of my favorite topics into one video, and this is before I started talking about history on my channel, where I was able to combine, history, movies, and theology all in one. So if you actually watch the Passion of the Christ video that I made, I didn't just talk about the difference between the movie and how the Gospels portrayed Jesus's last hours on earth. I also looked into the history of the time period. I also had to read the visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich, who was a nun that Mel Gibson used for inspiration for the movie as well, and that was really, really fun to do. It really came out great, and if you notice, most of my videos at the end screen of most of my videos for, like, suggested things that come up in the end of the screen, there's subscribe buttons here, the video there, I'll always recommend and put The Passion of the Christ in the end of it. That's one of my favorite videos I ever did. It was great. Alright, what's the best country you ever vlogged in? Greece, 100%. I don't vlog that much. Oh, you know what? No, technically America, because America's awesome and I love my country, but outside of America, Greece. But yeah, Greece, best country I've ever vlogged in outside of America. Greece is the coolest country I've ever visited, and the vlogs were fun there. They were cool there. They were different, so I loved it immensely. I loved it. Okay. Name your top 3 favorite American generals, please. Okay, I'll start with number 3. It's George Patton, from World War II. George Patton. Number 2 is Robert E. Lee, and number 1, it's our hero, Ulysses S. Grant. Yep. I'm actually doing my senior thesis on Robert E. Lee, and Ulysses S. Grant is my personal hero. So, there's always fun. Okay. What's with the Christ is Lord intro for your movie reviews? Okay, when I first started doing Unpopular Opinion, I didn't have a proper intro because my channel was like really low quality. And I also don't do well with graphic art. So when I finally was able to get a logo, I wanted to make like a cool sound intro. And I just scraped together noises from free iMovie sound bites, which was awful. Um, But the Christ is Lord thing came from the Padre Pio movie with Shia LaBeouf, and the Shia LaBeouf is where the Christ is Lord intro came in. So, I thought it'd be cool to put in my videos 'cause I mean, it's an awesome quote, so why not? Favorite movie genre? It's war and westerns. War movies and westerns. War because it's fascinating. Military history is the history that I think is the most interesting. I mean, obviously, because all I did was talk about the Civil War, the Crusades. But yeah, military history, the history of war is fascinating and it makes for great art, makes for great cinema. Most of my favorite movies are war movies, but I also love Western films because Western films are very niche, very specific in the period in which they portray, because it portrays parts of the American West or some parts of Mexico because the Mexican frontier and the American border. But the way you portray Westerns are fascinating because in terms of Wild West movies, what do you have? You have like really fascinating characters in a fascinating time period, and they're all manly men, and I love that. All right, next question. How did you stumble into the hobby of cracking whips? Great question. I became a whip cracker when I wanted to be Indiana Jones for Halloween a few years ago, and um, I didn't I didn't wanna not have a whip, so when I had my Indiana Jones costume, I bought myself a real whip, but I was under the impression if I went to this Halloween party, because I was going to a Halloween party, if you go and you have a whip, people are gonna ask for a demonstration, and I couldn't bear not doing it without without actually being successful at it. So I spent, no exaggeration, like 3 hours a day every day from when I got it until the Halloween party, and it just became so much fun to start cracking this whip, and I eventually got more. I even made myself a whip, which is awesome. It was so much fun to do. That's on my second channel, how I made that, unboxing with Bob Phillips. But yeah, that's how I got into the hobby of whip cracking, and then I posted it on YouTube as, like, a progress video because I would send progress videos of myself getting slightly better at it to, like, friends and whatnot, and then just by pure chance, I put it on Instagram, and it got a lot of views on my story, especially from people who don't even follow me. So I was like, "This guy from high school, this girl from high school, they don't even follow me, and they're watching this video. I'll just put it on YouTube and see what happens," and that's where it came from. But yeah, the hobby of whip cracking was definitely because I was Halloween Indiana Jones one year. All right, final question from Instagram, and then I'm gonna get into the questions from the chat. What Civil War battle interests you the most? It would be a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The Battle of Gettysburg happens to be the one that interests me the most. It's the battle that I know the most about in terms of the Civil War. It's the battlefield that I visit constantly. I would say I live like 4.5 hours away from Gettysburg, and there was a time in my life about 2019, maybe 2018, where I would literally go to Gettysburg every Saturday for a month and literally just have like a regular, normal, run of the mill day trip. And I wouldn't even spend the night. It got to the point where people, locals, actually started to recognize me. But yeah, Gettysburg. But I also find the Battle of Fredericksburg to be super fascinating. And that has a lot of really awesome, awesome aspects of it that make the Battle of Fredericksburg super cool. Yeah, the Battle of Fredericksburg is actually, in terms of the amount of soldiers present on the field, the largest battle ever fought in the North American continent. And it was also the first opposed river crossing in the history of the US Army, where the US Army tried to cross the Rappahannock River while they were under fire. And if I'm not mistaken, it was also the first urban combat of the American Civil War. So Gettysburg's number one honorable mention would be Fredericksburg in 1862. All right, last question, I think, from Instagram. Oh, no, that was the last question. All right, I'll get the questions in the chat. Remember, guys, if you have questions as we go along, obviously feel free to type them into the chat. So we got our first question in the chat. You're a medieval knight preparing for battle. What weapon are you choosing? Now, that's a good question. Medieval knight in battle. What weapon am I choosing? Well, obviously, I like lances because if I'm a knight and I'm on a horse, if I have a lance, that's that's gonna that's gonna make my job a lot easier. But if I was dismounted, a regular broadsword. But the thing is, that stuff's really expensive. So, yeah, not many people know this, but the the amount of money it costs for warriors in the medieval period to buy their armor and their weapons, it's probably the equivalent to, like, someone's house today. It's really expensive stuff. War is expensive. But, yeah, if I was a knight on a horseback, I would go for a lance. If I was dismounted, regular sword. That's, uh that's about it. Alright. Well, it seems like we've exhausted our questions. I think so far that was pretty fun. As I said, if you have any other further questions, feel free to comment them into the chat. Also, guys, remember, if you're in the what's it called? If you're in the stream live right now, and if you can hear me, just hit the thumbs up on the video. Just hit the like button because we just gotta get it as high as we can do it. All right. If there's no more questions, I'll end the stream. I might end the stream in like a couple minutes, see if anyone else comes out. But I gotta say, this was fun for my first Ask Me Anything because those Instagram questions were cool. Got one participant in the chat, which I really loved. Oh, favorite movie villain. Um, I actually did a video on this, my top 5 favorite movie villains, but it's probably, again, a cliche to say, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's Doctor Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs. I loved the Hannibal Lecter books, excluding the second 2, like, I didn't like Hannibal or Hannibal Rising, but I also love the Hannibal Lecter movies, and the, uh the portrayal by Anthony Hopkins in The Silence of the Lambs makes Lecter my number 1 favorite movie villain. I just happen to think that British people tend to portray the best villains. British people tend to be, like, really good actors, and they can play villains at a level that's awesome. So, yeah, solid question. Alright. Well, I think that's about it. I think that's gonna wrap it up. We had some fun. We answered some preliminary questions. This is the first of many streams. I'm thinking about doing future streams in the future, not just on Ask Me Anything, but other topics as well. As the channel grows, we're obviously going to get more viewers. I'm very grateful for that. And as the community grows, the Bob Squad, as we grow, we're gonna do some more topics for our live streams. I don't know. I mean, I would have to like put that to the chat or like put that to like audience polls on my post and community, like what kind of streams you guys would like to see more. But I'm gonna be honest, I definitely got more engagement than I thought I was gonna get. I think I got more viewers than I thought I was gonna get, and I had a good time. So, guys, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for tuning in. I think that's about it. I think that's gonna do it. I might do another one of these streams in the future in terms of Ask Me Anything. And if you guys want to see that, always comment below. The best way to get in touch with me is through Instagram. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, if you want to DM me on Instagram, that is the number one way to do that. So, yeah, I'm Bob Phillips signing out. Schwam.